Being such a large organization that caters to the interests of people and pedigree dogs across various interests, from dog shows to dog sports, the FCI has what they call commissions, which are essentially committees of people that are dedicated or have a vested interest in those particular areas of the canine world that the FCI also incorporates. And these people are, for want of a better word, like guardians of this particular elements. And so they form what the FCI has as commissions that go into looking into all the aspects and areas of that particular area of interest in pedigree dogs, whether it's a sport or whether it's the building blocks of a particular breed. So the breed standards, the scientific commission, these are all commissions, what the FCI calls commissions, and they're formed by members who are all volunteers that put their time and effort into developing and being part of the groups that are the custodians of this particular area of interest. So in this series, I speak to many of the presidents or people from these various commissions that the FCI has. There are several commissions, and I hope to cover and be able to speak to as many of them as possible to, again, bring a better understanding of how the FCI works and how these people who are breeders and trialers or exhibitors with interest in that particular area, how they are part of the FCI and form an integral and important committee within the FCI to help bring better meaning and understanding to this area. So I hope through this series, you get a better understanding of how these commissions work and how they assist the FCI in being this global organization with a universal interest to people in all areas of pedigree dogs. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the FCI podcast series. Today, we have, or I have the privilege of chatting with the president of the FCI Breed Standards Commission, Jorge Nalam, all the way from Uruguay. Hola, Jorge, how are you?
Hola, how are you?
I am very well. Good, thank you. Nice seeing you.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, likewise, even though it's on Zoom, but well, hey, we gotta do what we've got to do. And so
At
that's
least in Zoom.
yes,
But
exactly. All right, I'm going to jump straight in, Jorge, so that we can do as many of the questions that I have for you. How long have you been the president of the FCI Breed Standards Commission?
I became president on 2015.
Okay.
And I've been a member of the Standard Commission since 1999.
Wow. And can you please tell us, for the benefit of those within the FCI who are not so sure and those outside the FCI, what is the Breed Standards Commission?
It is a commission that is elected in a General Assembly of FCI. So everybody, every country votes for the members.
Okay.
It's composed by 6 members. And as I told you, you should be presented by your country and then voted in the General Assembly. And the ones who take more votes that are proposed stay into the commission. And then within the commission, it's elected the president.
Okay.
You stay in the commission for a term of 4 years.
Okay.
And each 2 years in every General Assembly, you choose 3 of the members. We are 6.
Okay, so 3 on, 3 off sort of thing. Okay.
Yes.
Right. And what do you guys do? What's the Breed Standards Commission? What is it about? What's the work?
The Breed Standards Commission, it's all about the standards of the breeds that we recognize within the FCI.
Okay.
We have, I don't know exact number now, but near 400 breeds recognized.
Okay.
And we work in 4 languages that are the official languages of FCI.
Right.
So it's a lot of work to maintain all the breed standards updated and updated in the 4 languages.
So tell me something. I'm going to stop you there for a minute. So do you guys, does this commission come up with the breed standards? Do you create the breed standards for each breed of dog?
No, no. Each breed standards belong to the country of origin.
Okay.
And if it's a member of the FCI, it's they send the changes or whatever they want to do with their standard to the standard commission,
Okay.
and we treat it in our meeting, and we give advices. We see if there is something wrong. We have to look the aspect of the standard that fits on the model standard at the FCI to
Right.
have homogenize all the standards and to see that there are not any mistake referred to coincidence by genetics or whatever.
Okay.
Also, we advise the countries with things that matters in our world now, like health and all that,
Okay.
in
Good.
conjunction with the scientific commission.
Okay.
We, in normal times, now know, because of, we all know, that used to have our meetings once a year, usually in May, and we used one day for the standard commission, and also they use one day for scientific commission, and day after we had a meeting, a joint meeting between the both commission.
Okay. So
There
these,
are some,
sorry, go ahead.
sorry,
No, go ahead.
no, there are some matters that had nothing to do with the scientific commission, but many times we also ask for their advice in the scientific sense of the wording or things that maybe we don't know and we need their help.
Okay. So when a country wants to make a change to its breed standard, because they are the owners of that breed, they're the ones, the country of development, so to speak. When these changes have to be approved by your commission, or can they still go ahead without the approval from the Breed Standards Commission?
These changes come to our commission, so we treat them and maybe give them some advices or try to make it better. Okay. Or then when we end with it, we send it back to the country of origin to see if they agree with what we say or what we change or whatever. And then when we have the agreement of the country of origin, is sent to the general committee to be approved.
Okay. So is it possible that the country of origin ignores your recommendations?
Some yes, and some no. Some things they should be in some way, because it's like I told you, like a model standard, so you have to respect the number of lines. You don't have to make it too poetic with names and dates, something boring. It has to be something useful for the breeders, for the judges, for the people that is interested in the breed. So you can't do a standard with 18 pages, for example. You try to make, so some things are like, it has to be like this in every standard. Some things that goes for their election and their choose, and you can accept that they want it this way, so you try to leave it in that way. And some things it's not possible because we have to take care with all that is happening in the world. You have to be very clear in some health points and all that. So you need them to understand these things had to be or had to change, for example. But never changing the basis of the breed. It's a matter of spelling or form or things that are really important that they should understand, that if they want to be part of FCI, they had to follow.
Because if you've recommended something, the Breed Standard Commission recommends something, and the country doesn't adopt it, so when it goes to the General Committee will be aware that the Breed Standards Commission did not recommend that. So ultimately, they get to approve or whether a breed standard is then changed accordingly. Is that correct? Or
Yes, that is correct. When we finish our meeting, we send the minutes to the office, and they send it to the general committee so they know what we had been doing and what we had thought, and we make a draft of what changes will be needed. It's more difficult when you have a new standard or completely changed standard. That is a lot of more work, and you have to be coming and going with the country of origin. And it's more difficult when you're doing a standard with to follow the country of origin when it's not a country of origin that is a member of the FCI.
okay,
For example, for British standards or standards from UK, we receive every year a list of the changes,
okay,
and we follow them. We try to be very respectful with the country of origin because we think it's the only way to do it right.
yes,
If you start following the ideas or needs of countries that had nothing to do with the membership of the breed, it's very difficult and it's not fair, because maybe you live in a country where you need a small setter to hunt some kind of birds that you have in, but it's not the country of origin, and you can't go changing the breed standard to adapt to all the needs in all the countries of the world.
right,
So who will you be listening? The one here, there. So it's much easier and much fairer to follow, even it's not a member of the FCI. And it will be very important that the other countries do the same with our standards, the standards of the FCI. That
right,
it's not the case. In many standards, they do different things, and it's not good. It's not good for the breed. It's not good for us, because we want it or not, they follow a different standard in many ways. They don't have many times, for example, the disqualifications, so they accept some other things. But people within the FCI and that maybe importing dogs with these faults, that they are a fault in our countries and they are not a fault in their countries. So it's not, the ideal will be that they also respect our standards as we do there.
but so in the case of a country that's not a standard that comes from a country that's not an FCI member, if there was a concern with health and welfare, say, and the FCI felt strongly that for the sake of health and welfare, the FCI need to put certain things in, does that happen where we change the standard because of those issues, and then it's so-called an FCI standard, although FCI is not the country, or is it the member country is not from the FCI? Has that ever happened?
We try to do it the less we can, but it had happened, of course, in many breeds that they had some words with tendency to some exaggerations. We try to avoid all the things, so maybe some words are changed, and we in this need, yes, but in the basis of the breed, it doesn't. We don't change things that will become a different breed.
So in a sense, less flexibility to alter the breed standards for countries that are not members of the FCI, respecting to respect what that they have developed these breeds. But if it goes against anything that we feel does not follow along the lines of health and welfare, or those sort of, as you mentioned, exaggerations, then the FCI will alter the standard a bit.
Yes, especially and mostly in these cases, because we don't have a way to don't do that.
Okay.
We have become in a world where words are very important to be a guide for the people, and also to be seen by other people who maybe don't understand so well. But in some other things, it's difficult. For example, we had find that many, not many, but some breeds, standards of UK or AKC, have things that maybe scientifically is not, I don't know if this is the good word, but it's not corresponding as it should. For example, in Staffies from UK and American Staffordshire from US, they ask for a black nose.
Okay.
Which is perfect, but they allow blue dogs, and no blue dog can have a black nose.
Yes.
So what do you do when you're judging? Or what do you do when you're breeding? And we tried to change it, and we wrote, and it was not accepted. So we still have decided to go and do it ourselves, because as I told you, we also always try to respect them, but
Right.
sometimes it's not so easy.
So I guess easier in a way to make recommendations to countries that are FCI members with regards to the standards, because we have a little bit more ownership. The FCI has a little bit more ownership of the standards, so to speak.
Not always. Not always. There are many countries which are very easy, and you can have an open dialogue, and they understand very easy what they tell them. And some countries who are very, very difficult, even they are FCI, because they don't do it the national organization. It's done by the breed club.
Okay.
And usually in many of these countries, the breed clubs are very not open mind. So it's not easy to have an open dialogue and try to make it better. And they think, who is these people who are trying to change our standard? And we have been here 50 years and it has always been this. And it's not that you're not trying to change the breed. You respect all the history, but if you see that something could be better, we would like to make it better. But it's not always easy.
And how much feedback then, when in deciding these things, how much feedback do you guys get from breeders, from judges, or the breed clubs themselves in coming up with recommendations? How much of consultation is there with these people?
Not much. The feedback I get from breeders or judges is not by being a member of the Standard Commission or being the president. Usually I get the feedback from them when I working as a judge.
Okay.
So they come to me and say, there is a mistake in the Spanish version of for example, we were taking exams one day ago, 2 days ago, and one of the students came and showed me, and it was true. There's a lot of mistakes. We try to take it and make it better every time, but there is always something. Imagine almost 400 standards, many of them that hasn't been revised for a long time, okay, and in 4 languages. It's not easy. So it's very good to hear the people. They all is the best, because you have 1 million eyes to tell you where is wrong. So, and after I find something wrong, or I'm told by somebody about something wrong, the work with FCI office is usually very easy.
Okay.
Me.
Okay. And I guess then my next question is, most of your members of your committee are all breeders, and therefore that's the interest in them to understand these breed standards better, in application, to make it practical rather than.
You always, as I told you, depend on who is presented for the Standard Commission, because maybe you have 4, or maybe you have 15 people presented.
Okay.
So they read the CV of each one in this, and some are known, some are not very well known.
Okay.
Sometimes you have options, sometimes you don't have so many options, and you have to. But at the moment, all the members in my commission are breeders, except for one.
Okay.
That is Claude Guintard from France, and he's more scientific than breeder. And when he first entered, you think maybe it won't be ideal because maybe he doesn't understand, because there are different points of view. Maybe he was better for the scientific commission, but he has been wonderful, really wonderful. And he has understand perfect the way of working, and he's hard worker. So I think I'm very happy with all the members that are at the moment, that are the president of the DDH,
Great.
Peter Rui Oliveira from Portugal,
Okay.
Ferdinando Snaghi from Italy,
Right.
Pedro from Romania,
Excellent.
Claude Guintard from France, and me. And we,
Right.
I think, work very good together. We understand very, very good, and we know that is most important, the health of the dogs. But we are very much defending the type of the breeds. We don't want a generic dog that is very healthy and run like crazy and has the same proportions of muscle, and this is good for some breeds.
Okay.
But these other breeds that don't have what the many, for example, more scientific or welfare or whatever, and this breed had exist for hundreds and hundreds of years in a healthy way. They live long lives and they can have a very good life. You have to be conscious, and you have to think a lot of the welfare of your dogs. It's the main thing.
Yes.
But it can exist in the breeds as they have been for a long time. If you think and see pictures of these breeds that have been so punished, and you see, for example, in heads, in proportions, in muscles, in skulls, that they don't have changed that much. They have changed a lot more in structure, in body, in angulations, in proportions, for better than for worse. Of course, you have people who like shorter and shorter and shorter, but this is not good, and this is what we try to avoid, and we try to the people to understand, and that this kind of fashion is not fashion nice, it's bad, and will conduct to maybe put in risk some breeds. But yes, to keep the original type of the breed.
Brilliant. And you mentioned the word fashion, and I want to just jump on that for a little bit. We see all sorts of fashions and designer dogs these days that are developed overnight, and people are just breeding, different breeds together. I know that the FCI, one of the jobs of your Breed Standard Commission is actually in the recognition of new breeds. Can you tell us some of the importance that the FCI places with regards to recognition of new breeds, that it's not just, what are the aspects that are considered? And then maybe the next part, you can tell us how a country goes about, or how your commission goes about approving a new breed.
Because I think we and all within the FCI had to be serious in what we do. Absolutely. When you have to accept a new breed, you can't go following the fashion, as you said, or the needs or accidents that some people can have. making some new breed because they want to take their name. Or it's not about that.
Yeah.
There are a lot of new breeds that we are accepting, mostly the last times, from people or from people, no, sorry, from countries who were not still accepted by FCI.
Okay,
And usually they are very old breeds.
right.
And you have very, if you go to FCI website, you go to commissions, and by scientific commission, you have Annex 5, that is where it says all the needs you have to present as national organization to present a new breed. There you need 8 families with different males and females to present all this, the pedigrees. It has to be a breed that has been at least recognized by 15 years in the country of origin. Not recognized only, but taking the register of the dogs.
So basically, they've been registered for 15 years at least.
Yes,
Okay,
at
in
least.
country of origin. Okay.
You need a DNA exam for all these dogs to prove that this a new breed. Many times it's maybe a not new breed, but it's a variety for a breed.
Okay.
And that is good because it will have a bigger gene pool, so it will be
Brilliant.
important for the breed. And we need pictures, videos to start seeing if they are, if we are talking right of the standard they are sending, and or maybe you say this has nothing to do what they want. And then to follow the process, you need to be revised at the place with at least 60, 70 dogs to see what they want.
It's an inspection of at least 60, 70 dogs.
An inspection inside of a member of the standard and a member of the scientific commission. And as I told you, you need to see that it's a serious work, that is not something that somebody wants. So we have had a lot, as I told you, because there are many still old breeds that are not recognized in India, in Turkey, in China. These are very old countries with a lot of sinologic tradition, but they were not members, so there is a job that is to be done.
Okay. So they're not new breeds per se, meaning they were not developed yesterday or last year. They're breeds that have existed for a fair amount of time, but maybe because these countries were not FCI members, or the countries were not, these breeds were not registered with the FCI by these countries. So they've actually existed for a large amount of time before.
Sometimes years.
And on the whole, have these breeds had written breed standards before this when they present, or do you write from scratch? Are breed standards written from scratch by your commission, based on photographs, videos, inspections?
You had some that was written, but usually you have to do a standard complete to follow the needs of the standards of the FCI. And then you have some new breeds that were created that maybe at first is difficult to accept. It happened with the Continental Bulldog, for example.
Okay.
This was a breed that was presented, and they have more or less the papers and all, but we thought they were not ready, so they went back, do their job, make it better, listen to what you have to say then. When they see you and you're doing an honest and serious job, they understand. They know that you're not being mean or whatever. And they had done an excellent job, and now it's going to be accepted as a new breed. And
when you say make changes, you're talking of changes to the breed standard, obviously not to the breed, because the breed's already pretty much set in certain ways.
Yes, yes, the breed was very, it's a matter of a lot of things to think about. You have to think about what is existing already, that is maybe developed also already in many countries, and numbers are important because these give a health background to the breed that it would help. So there's a lot of things to think about it,
Yeah.
and to propose to the general committee. And in this case, otherwise than after all our work is done, after all the scientific commission work is done, goes to general committee and then goes to general assembly also. So it takes a long process.
Okay. And
And to be accepted at first at provisional basis.
for how long?
Then it has to prove in 10 years that is stable and had improved and had and grow to go to final recognition.
Okay, so when they first get the approval, it is not a full approval. That means it's still an approval that is on a provisional basis for 10 years. And that's
Yeah.
after they've complied with providing a breed standard that you're happy with, an inspection of 60 to 70 dogs, see that there's homogeneous, or that they're uniform, that the breed looks the same, and they're all those aspects. Then they have to do 10 years of proof.
After all is done, they are accepted in provisional way. So they enter as provisional breed in the nomenclature of FCI.
Right.
And then they can compete. They can get a CAC national level. They can't get CACIB.
Okay.
After 10 years, you can go for CACIB if it's fully recognized.
Okay. So we're talking about a process that is nearly 25 years in the making, with just complying to FCI requirements before the full recognition. I mean, of course, we're not even talking of the development of the breed in the native country. We're talking of just complying with what FCI requires is at least 15 years worth of registering with a national club before they can be recognized, and then 10 years of provisional on FCI.
No, then all the process of recognizing it provisionally, and then the 10 years to fully recognize.
It could be a long 30 years, 25 to 30 years before it's recognized.
Okay. It's generations of people working for that breed to be recognized.
Wow.
It's not easy.
It has to be dedicated people. It can't be something that someone just decided they're going to do and say, okay, and then FCI says, oh, here, let's get another new breed. And
it has to be something serious.
Okay. So Jorge, there's a lot of work, obviously, in record, that the countries have to put in and the breeders of that particular breed have to comply with before they can get recognition.
It is a lot of work. It is a lot of work for the country who's doing this. It's not easy because there are many things that you have to fulfill a full questionnaire about health, temperament, a lot of things, studies, X-ray, heart, many things to get to this point to start the process.
So there could be a case where a breed is not approved because they don't comply with the health part, or they fail to meet the requirements on moderation that is required, or these require. Has there been cases? I mean, without naming the breeds, or is it just?
There have been cases, and there's no problem naming. For example, with the Russian toy, when it was presented, was not accepted, even though there were great numbers, but it was not accepted by our commission. Okay. Because for what we got, they didn't have a defined type. It was coming from different breeds, and you could see some were like Papillons, some were like pinchers, and some were like other breeds. So it was not recognized at first. Then they had continued with the work, and finally it was recognized as a breed. It takes a long process, and we try
But
to
if
be.
there isn't that uniformity, there's a potential case that you tell the breeder of the country that's attempting to recognize to go back, and they have to work at making the dogs look more uniform. They have to, be type-wise very similar, that there cannot be
Yes,
a variation in type.
it is not good, because you judge all over the world, and you are that in many breeds there are different types. So this is something existent. It is something you have to know. It is like this. It is something that is within these breeds. So you can't go punishing every dog when you find, if you come to South America and you have a little more American, or you go to FCI and you see Siberians that are not like America wants them. So you have to have some know how to manage and know how to deal with it. But it's not good, I think, when you are accepting one breed that it's already with different types. So you try to do it
That's
better.
why
And
when you're establishing a new breed, what you're doing is actually making sure there's more uniformity, that they
that type, at
variation.
least this type and all these other things that we are asking for, but is at least uniform.
Okay. So that's why I guess I bring up this point, because it annoys me how easily all these new breeds, designer breeds come up, and they're just basically crossbreds. When people don't realize that when the FCI talks about recognition of a breed, or I'm sure other kennel clubs, serious kennel clubs like the AKC and the Kennel Club and everything, it's a very long process of recognizing a breed that have to comply to so many criteria before they get accepted. That it's
A
not
lot.
straightforward as just mating breed A and breed B and then saying, okay, we've got a new breed and it's recognized.
No, it's not. Of course, it exists, and sorry,
No problem.
and we know that there are a lot in many countries, but I think it's more something more economic interest of some breeders that want to have the different thing and the exclusive and exotic, and they sell better, but it's not a matter of serious breeders.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at healthy dogs that are going to, be as healthy as possible with, without genetic problems, that will live good long lives and be excellent. Well, Jorge, thank you so much. This has been very interesting, and I'm sure a lot of people have wondered about what your commission is, and I really thank you for shedding some light on it. Is there anything that I've maybe not covered that you'd like to tell us about your commission, or have I covered more or less everything?
No, you cover, I think, the questions that people want to know. And anyway, I am here for what you want to ask in any other occasion, or if there is anything to clarify, you tell me, and I will be glad to.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jorge. I really appreciated your time today, and I hope you've enjoyed being with us as well.
Thank you so much to you, Gopi. I think it's very important to do these kind of things.
Excellent. I hope it gets other people asking the right questions now, that they understand who they should be addressing these issues to. So when breeders have issues with breed standards, or the wordings in breed standards, maybe things are lost in translation sometimes, as you've said, because when it gets translated into one of the languages, a meaning is changed perhaps unknowingly, not intentionally, and they know who to approach. They know
Maybe one word is misunderstood. For as an example only, for a long time we had in English Cocker that in ice said full. That is the right word. And it was translated to Spanish as too big, and it's not big. It's general, full, it's not a big eye. So maybe one word changed all, and so that's why it's important. And as I told you, it's important when the people comes and say this is wrong, and we check and we try to do it better.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well, I hope I keep you busier now, give you more work. All these people are gonna know who they have to direct all their inquiries to.
Of course, with pleasure.
All right, Jorge, thank you, and I wish you and the commission all the best. And thank you for what you do for our pedigree dogs.
Thank you very much, and very nice to see you at least in Zoom, by Zoom.
Okay, take care. Bye now.
Take care of yourself.